Here we go, guys. Okay, so you can see my setup. I've got my 4 silicon molds, the colorful elastic bands around I'm about to cut up to use as some decoration in the resin. So let's get started. At this point, I started making a giant mess, so I paused the video. I went and cleaned everything up and did it a smarter way, chopping up this bloody confetti. Okay, now it's time to unbox the Kmart epoxy resin. As I was doing this, I noticed that one of the tubes had leaked in the box. It actually turned out okay because I had enough resin. So everything you see me taking out right now is what you get in the box, which is actually perfect. So you get the 2 parts of the resin, measuring cups, a little spoon to mix it all together, and gloves. Please make sure you put them on. Just save yourself a headache right now. Right. So this is a 2-to-1 ratio epoxy. For those people that don't math, you have 2 measuring cups there. Just work in increments of 10 milliliters. So for every 2 pieces of the epoxy, so every 2 10 mils that you put in for the epoxy, you have to put in 1 10 mil of the hardener. All the instructions are in there. I know it might sound confusing. It's actually very simple. Now all I'm doing is putting in the A and the B. I actually did 40 mils and 20 mils. And then I'm going to put it in another cup, which is made of silicon, just FYI. And you want to scrape as much of it as you can into it and then add the second one. You do this so that you get an equal amount of the resins. And then this says to stir for 4 minutes, which is what I've done off camera, but when you're stirring it, make sure you're scraping the bottom and the sides constantly, okay? Because you want to obviously mix the 2 parts together. Sometimes you can actually feel it on the sides of the container or cup or whatever you're using, but you do want to scrape down the sides and the bottom as much as possible to get an even mix. Otherwise, sometimes the resin won't set, or it'll be sticky, or yeah, just follow the instructions. Now I'm just going to pour in a little amount into each of the, well, 3 of the coasters. As you can see, it looks, when it pours, it's kind of like a very thin honey or pancake batter. If you leave it, it does normally spread itself out, but sometimes, as you'll see me do in a sec, you can actually help it move. Now, the bottom of the coaster or the bottom of the mold is normally what you're going to see at the as the top. So that's why I wanted to put a thin layer down to make sure it was completely flat and completely sealed. But once you see me finish, I will actually end up taking these coasters out and flipping them over and using the what's currently the bottom as the top. So scrape out all the resin that you can. Waste not, want not. Now I'm going to move it here and I'm going to spill a little bit on the silicon mat. And the reason I did that is I did it by accident, but I'm going to leave it so that you can also see how easy it is to clean up once you're done. Drop in whatever you're putting into the resin. I'm putting the rubber bands on top of the resin that I just poured to make sure there's an even coating and that the bottom's done. Now I'm just putting in glitter as another simple coaster, which is one of the easiest things to do. So look, sometimes glitter sinks, sometimes it rises, so I've just done a thin layer because all of these coasters I plan on putting a second coat of resin on the top to seal it, basically, just make it nice and smooth. You don't have to, but it's the way I do it. So now just touch up, make sure everything's flat, the resin's covered everything, and you're done. Alright, so now I'm putting in some embellishments, which are just some eyes. into the purple coaster. Now, I didn't realize that in my bag of eyes there were also these clear gems, which is going to cause me to make a change to my plans in a sec. But I got them out of the purple, and one drops into the glitter one, so I put them all in there. The thing with these little jewels, anything clear that you put in resin will end up turning invisible. So it's going to look weird, but I thought I'd put in the mistake to show you guys. Now we come to another thing that is commonly used in resin, which is called alcohol ink. So it's basically food dye, except you can do so much more with it, and it doesn't fade in sunlight. So this is a technique. I don't know what the name of it is, um, but all I'm doing is dropping a few drops in, and then I'm going to go over it in white. And what the white is supposed to do is push the green down. So this creates a whole strange effect, and it keeps bleeding together as it dries. So whenever you stop doing this sort of effect, the alcohol inks keep mixing um, while it's setting. Now, the other way to use alcohol ink is to actually put it straight into resin, mix the resin so it's completely, in this case, green, and then you've got green resin, colored resin. But this is just another technique that I thought was cool that I wanted to show off. To be honest, I haven't done it before, so I hope it turns out well. So I came back 3 hours later just to let everything settle a bit and added the second coat of resin just to seal it all up. Then I'm going to leave it for 48 hours, as per the instructions on this specific box of epoxy. Okay, guys, now it's been 48 hours, so we've just coming back to demold the coasters. So you can see they're fully set, they're hard as. Um, this is now the top. It is nice and smooth and no problems with that one. The glitter one's thinner than I would normally make it, but I did turn some of the crystals upside down so you can see the mirror backing. It actually turned out a lot better. I think it's my favorite. This one, the purple one, you can use either side. The top's obviously very, very smooth. The bottom is also smooth, but it's got the eyes, which was requested by a friend, and it's transparent, so you can see whatever's under it. This one failed. Didn't turn out the way it was supposed to, probably because it was only one color. But it does have some cool patterns in it. It kind of looks like there's a leaf inside it. So yeah, those are the coasters. All right, guys. Next project is using UV resin. Now, UV resin only takes a couple of minutes to set using a UV light, or if you don't have a UV light, you can leave it out in the sunlight and it will set in about half an hour rather than 48 hours. If you have a UV light, whether it be a torch, one of the little nail lamps that I'm going to be using, it normally takes anywhere from 30 seconds to 5 or 10 minutes, okay? Depending on how much resin you're using, if it's a lot in one go. Now I'm using a pendulum mold here and I'm putting in amethyst chips. It's the first time I've actually used amethyst chips in this mold, but they are darker so you will be able to see them. Spoiler alert, didn't turn out exactly how I wanted it, which is fine, but it's still worth putting up on camera and showing you guys what it looks like. In a sec, you'll see me squeezing some of the bubbles out of the resin. Unfortunately, I didn't get all of them. That's the spoiler. But hey, it's if I was doing this properly for myself, I would be taking it a lot slower. But it is what it is. Okay, so this is the UV lamp. You can get these off eBay. They're not that expensive. I think they're normally used for drying nail polish. So I'm just putting it under there. I'm going to give it 5 minutes. However, these little lamps only last for, they go off every 60 seconds. So I'm actually going to take it out, put it in a bigger machine, UV machine that I have. I've only got it because I do a lot of UV resin. While it's in that machine, I added a chain to the top of it, which came out wonky lupus. So that's also part of the spoiler thing. But when I bring it back, I've actually already unmolded it just to see if there was any way of fixing it. There is, but instead of using it as an actual pendulum, I can just have it as a piece of art. And here it is. Um, I clicked on the light one last time, but I demolded it. Here's the chain. It wasn't centered. There is no actual point at the bottom, which means there was an air bubble there. But not too shabby for a piece of art. Okay guys, last project. It's a bonus one because I wasn't happy with the pendulum. So it's very basic, love heart mold, putting in some resin. I'm going to put in some glow in the dark stones and another coat of resin. I'm struggling with the bottle because it's almost empty. Now, I am going to use the nail file, the nail light, UV light. What I need to point out here is both epoxy resin and UV resin, they're both chemicals, and when they are curing, they can let off a steam or a smoke, a chemical smoke. So always do this in a ventilated area. If you do have breathing problems, maybe wear a mask. But I'm going to try and see if the smoke does turn up on camera because this particular UV resin does let off a significant amount. At this point, I've had it under the UV lamp for 10 minutes. It still had a little bit of time to go, so I put it under my UV machine I have off screen, which is higher power. Now we're all done. I'm going to demold it because we're all set and it's all completely solid. So it has taken about, let's say, half an hour, but you can see there's no bubbles in it. It's all done nice and smooth. Now I'm going to turn off all the lights so you can hopefully see it glow on camera. Just for the sake of it, it is glow in the dark. What's the point if you don't show it off? Now with this, I can actually stick it somewhere outside the house. I can stick it on the letterbox, on the wall, whatever I want, on my window, and it will glow in the dark. So that's the resin tutorial intro, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned some stuff. Look forward to seeing some of your projects, and I'll have more for you in the future. Thanks for watching, guys. I will see you Sunday night with the free triple deck readings. Stay safe, stay well, and focus on your happiness.